Hello, I'm Emily Sheffield, editor of the Evening Standard, and I'm delighted to be joined today by the brilliant Nicola Mendelsohn. As Facebook's Vice President for Europe, the Middle East and Africa, the tech giant's most senior position outside the US, Nicola is one of the most powerful and influential women working in tech today. Born in Manchester, Nicola started working in the advertising industry in the early 90s before joining Facebook in 2013. In 2015, she was awarded a CBE in the Queen's Birthday Honours list for services to the creative industries. And if a high-powered job and 4 children doesn't keep her busy enough, in recent years, Nicola has turned her attention to fundraising. After being diagnosed with the incurable blood cancer in 2016, Nicola set up the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation, an organisation dedicated to supporting thousands of people living with the condition, while working with scientists to help find a cure. Welcome, Nicola. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here.
Well, it's very nice to meet in person because when you and I first met, it was over Zoom. And I'd like to think that we were meant to talk about work, but actually we spent 45 minutes just talking about our lives, didn't we?
Yeah, we certainly
laughing
did.
Quite a lot. And I remember you hugely cheered my day up, as that was in February when it was all rather dark and gloomy, wasn't it?
It really was. And it just shows you that, meeting people online
can work.
Can work, but when you see them in person,
Yeah.
well, nothing better.
No, it's nothing better. It's been a long year, over a year. What are some of your reflections on last year, both professionally and personally? I mean, we've all been locked down a lot, but because of your cancer, you really have had to shield very, very severely. How's that impacted you? How have you coped with that?
Yeah, what a year. Nobody could have predicted or expected. And it's been somebody described it to me as a corona coaster of a year, and it definitely feels like that, where there's been highs and lows. I've definitely had an appreciation for smaller things. The world got a lot smaller. I was somebody that was traveling every week, jumping on planes. Suddenly I was here. I got to know my area a lot better, just with the walking round and round, the streets here. And I can't believe that there were, parks and things that I'd never had the chance to actually enjoy. Eating with my family every day, 3 meals a day, we'd never done that.
How did that go?
No, it was good, actually good. Once we'd worked out and dividing up who was going to help and cook what and, delegating all the tasks, that would work out. So there's been a huge amount of change and things that actually I'm grateful for, experiences that I would never have had. On the professional side, it's changed beyond all recognition. If you'd have said to me last January, we're going to send everybody home and everybody a year later is still going to be working from their homes, you wouldn't have believed it.
No.
But you actually can form bonds and relationships with people in different ways. You have those moments when the children walk in, somebody bumps it, something comes in, the delivery driver in the middle of it. We've all had it. Yeah. So in some ways it's made me feel closer to my colleagues. But on the other hand, it also, I think it's been a very challenging year for a lot of people for a number of different reasons.
Yeah. How did you keep your colleagues at work? I mean, I think with so much people, especially this long winter, you could sort of lose some drive and energy because, our days were just, very similar. How at Facebook or amongst your colleagues, how did you keep that sort of excitement about work, I suppose? Because for many of us who enjoy our jobs, that's what gives us our creativity. We really look forward to going into work. We enjoy seeing our colleagues. And there's a kind of creative energy that we all run off. How did you keep that going with your colleagues?
Yeah, well, a number of different ways. And actually, Adam Grant recently has just published an article to say that what a lot of us are experiencing is languishing. That kind of feeling of, is it here we go again, another day? I think it starts with the fact that the people at Facebook are at Facebook because we believe in the mission about connecting people, and never has that been more important than in the last year. We've seen the way in which people communicate totally change, and we've seen that through our own services. So the fact that there was a doubling of people using our video apps, our messaging, and to be able to communicate, that was pretty significant. So keeping that actually up and running so that people could communicate, that was really important.
So they felt they had a mission. There was a sense
of purpose. Yeah, very much so in the work. But also we have a program at work that predated the pandemic, which was all about called Fuel and restoring your own mental and physical energy levels. And so we'd actually put a whole program of work into place beforehand. So we had a language, we had tools, we had trainings to be able to help one another. And that was really important to help people, especially through the dark winter, which was particularly hard.
Now, I know this is a sort of tough question to address, but you've been fully vaccinated, but we just discussed before, you learnt last week that the vaccine isn't going to fully work with you. So how you struck me when we first met on Zoom as just being some unbelievably positive person. How do you cope with news like that? How do you give yourself time? I mean, we're not superhumans.
No, we're not. And honestly, that was a blow. I knew going in that there was a chance it might not work, because some of the early research coming out was suggesting that it might be the case that people with blood cancer particularly, but also cancer, might not create the antibodies as a result of the vaccine in quite the same way, particularly with blood cancer. So I had an antibody test after my second vaccine, which I was so grateful to get and so hopeful to get that vaccine. I think it's the most amazing program, and I hope everyone goes and gets vaccinated. But the evidence at the moment is that I haven't made any antibodies. So yeah, it was a blow. I don't know, I just hadn't seen that coming, and normally I'm quite good at looking around corners. So just had to take 24 hours, 48 hours just to absorb it, because also it's the implication is not just on me, it's on my family as well. And lots of emotions run through your mind around that. But I'm going back to positive, Nicola, and thinking that actually these were the first iterations of the vaccines, and I hope that governments and the amazing charities out there, like the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation, like blood cancer, keep working to find some other solutions.
And also one hopes that as we all get vaccinated, it means the virus itself is going to stop circulating, which will be safer for those who, like you, the vaccine isn't going to help protect them enough. I think that brings us nicely to the arena of showing vulnerability, and I think this is something you shared. You shared your news with people at Facebook and have talked about it very widely. I remember sending out an email at the beginning of this second lockdown, and I shared something that had happened in my family and with my children at the beginning of sort of halfway through the first lockdown. Because working from home had a huge impact on many women. You had no childcare, you were trying to hold your job together. It meant for many of us, our children were either not being watched or being neglected or incredibly lonely. And my younger son broke down at dinner one night in floods of tears and just said, "I'm so lonely." At which point my husband and I made huge efforts to try. I started getting up at 6 to try and work, then take over Rex, and we'd swap. Now, I shared that with my staff. That was a quite personal thing to share in an email to 130 people. But I got a lot of emails back saying, "Thank you very much, Emily, for sharing that, because that makes us feel that we can now be open with the company with some of the emotional struggles we're having at home." You have also said that you think showing a bit of vulnerability at work is important. Why have you found that important?
I don't think I really... I don't think I expected the reaction that I got when I did share the news about my cancer. And you just sharing that story here now with so many people, it is a brave thing to do, because people expect the people in charge to be all powerful and strong, and and we're human beings. We have the same good and bad that everybody has in their lives, but we put this weird false mask on when it comes to work. And I think what it does to everyone is just put extra pressure. So if your colleagues don't know that you're going through that with your child, and you snap at them or something like that, they're going to feel really bad and etc. And you're putting that pressure. So everyone's creating pressure, which we don't need to have. So if we are more vulnerable, if we are more open, if we share, then we create what I just call a more realistic way of being. It's just being human. And I think it just gives permission for people to authentic, vulnerable, share. And I think you get the best out of people by that.
Is this something that women are leading with? And is that fair, really, that we should have to lead that? Because I do think the sort of gender divide on emotions is something we need to break down. Men cry, men get sad, men get vulnerable. Women equally can be criticised for being aggressive when they're probably showing no more aggression than any man does. How do we break down these? Anger is an emotion, sadness is an emotion, vulnerability is an emotion. These are all emotions. We are very emotional human beings. How do you break down that gender divide in the workplace so that we don't all get tagged as sort of, I don't know, being weak or emotional or too angry or...
Well, I think this last year actually has gone a good way towards that, because we have seen people picking up more of the roles at home in different ways, men and women. I do think it's been something that has been led by women, but increasingly I do see more male leaders kind of looking and going, well, actually it's kind of working over there. Maybe I should give it a go. And here's the thing, you do it and people want to help you because they can empathize with you more and they can see that they can take something bit of the slack up and opportunities for people. So I agree with you, it shouldn't be the women are the emotional ones. No, we're people. We're people and this is how we live our lives, and there isn't a distinction between work and home. It's just our life. We get one chance at it, so let's embrace it.
The most of it.
Totally.
What positives should we be looking for in the Zoom meeting as companies?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. You know, if I think about myself, as I was traveling every week, and sometimes I would be traveling for an hour meeting. That's not good for me. That's not good for the planet. You know, it's not really good for anyone. It's not good for my family. So I think there's huge advantages, but we always try and categorize things as, we'll all now do this or we'll all do that. No, I love a bit of grey. You know, I think there's a lot of space to play in the middle. You know, in Facebook in the last week, we had over 1,000 people who've never met a colleague, never been in an office, but actually you can form close relationships with people. So I think the blend will be a good thing, but I can't wait to get back in.
I know, we need to embrace the blend. Now, obviously, for London's been hit by the pandemic very hard. Businesses have been hit incredibly hard here because hospitality is a huge employer here, especially of young people. If we do, I guess one of the things that people are worrying about, lots of people who own small businesses, coffee shops, dry cleaners, if there's a huge exodus, and I think it's going to be a blend, but if we do an exodus of even 20% of people coming into the office or 30% is going to have a very big knock-on effect on a lot of businesses. How do you think London could embrace this? Because lots of you won't know, but Nicola serves on the Mayor of London's Business Advisory Board. I'm sure this has come up. What are some of the issues? And we're talking about a lot at the Standard. How can we encourage people to think of London not just as somewhere you come to work, but maybe to holiday more in? What can we do to save those business and regenerate?
Yeah, first off, London's the best city in the world. I love London and I miss it. You know, I live in London, but I miss the London with, you know, the restaurants and the shops and the theatres, and it's coming back and it's going to continue to come back. And I think as soon as it does, people will be there. I mean, we're already seeing it. People are in the parks now. They're getting closer. They're starting to eat outside. And so I do think that for a lot of businesses that they'll be okay. There will be some that won't be. And that's going to be very challenging and very difficult, because what we've seen, the pandemic, isn't just a health crisis. It's also an economic crisis that we're going through. We've seen from a Facebook perspective how many of those businesses have shifted online in the last year. It's been fantastic to see them embracing some of the new products that we've created, like Facebook Shops, which is any business for free can now have a shop front on Facebook and Instagram, and then be able to market to customers. And over 1 million shops now exist there. But more than that, there's 250 million people that are going into those virtual shop fronts. But it's not just physical shops. You know, we've seen the restaurants move to delivery and reimagine new ways, and even people like personal trainers, which again is a big part of London life. Those service type businesses. I met an amazing lady called Christina virtually, and she was a part-time trainer. And actually she started last year to put some lessons out online, and now actually she's got a bigger business because she's now selling subscriptions. And so again, the benefits of Zoom, you can actually, or on our platforms, Facebook Live, you can actually get out there and sell to more people. So we've seen that. So we've seen that regeneration. And we're also seeing, and especially interesting with female entrepreneurs, people thinking, well, hang on a minute here, maybe this is the time that I need to set that business up. Maybe there's something that I can do differently. There's an amazing company called Handle. It's a mum and a daughter. And they're selling handle straps for your bags to make your bags look great, different types of ones. So we're seeing that, more and more entrepreneurialism, but it will come back because that's London.
But how do you think, because you obviously, you work in the digital world, a lot of journalism is done digitally too now, but what about our physical high streets, I suppose? How can digital help us not ruin those businesses, but help them?
Yeah, but I think we're seeing that. When the high streets close the world over, they could have stayed shut, and they did, but they could also reach their businesses through online. And so if I even think of my local high street, the amount of, the restaurants that went online, the clothes shops that went online.
But the high streets are places we meet and converse. So how can they marry that? Is it about... So I know Facebook's done work with companies and helping them even redress their shop windows. How do you think the physical shop can work with digital so that we have both, I suppose? Because we don't want empty streets.
Yeah, I don't think we're going back to how it was before. I think it's that blend coming back again, and we're putting more and more training out through our Boost Business programs. Yeah. We're linking with Be the Business more and more. Yeah. We've given £5 million out to small businesses in London in particular in the last year, to help them grow. So I think it's a blend. And I think, in the way that we were talking earlier about we could never have imagined, a whole workforce working from home, I think a lot of the businesses on the high street couldn't have imagined going online and selling things digitally, but they are. And especially, as I say, female entrepreneurs, we've got a whole program for them. So if anybody's out there thinking, should I? There's a She Means Business program that we run, and there's a whole hub that people can go. And we've trained over 1 million women around the world with digital skills and networks. Having that connection with other businesses that are doing similar things to you, that's a really helpful thing.
Do you think the opportunity could really be that shops that hadn't moved digitally that fast at that point, they can still see their physical spaces as places where we can go and try things on, we can communicate with people physically, but you can reach even more customers digitally. So it shouldn't be seen as an attack, but something to embrace.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the high street was the passing trade. Actually, you can be selling your products, if it's not a food product, anywhere in the world, which is a really exciting opportunity for businesses.
And how do we, some companies, particularly big digital giants like Amazon, how do we help the smaller businesses who cannot compete with Amazon and their amazing delivery times, and how can we help those small businesses?
Well, it's one of the most important things that we're doing at Facebook is the work that we can do for small businesses. Anybody can create a Facebook shop or a page for free, any business. And it's been fantastic to be able to see those businesses to grow. But I'm under no illusion as well how hard it's been. But as I said, I'm holding on to the fact that there is the opportunity out there for people to grow their businesses, find new customers through the digital platforms.
What do you believe are the responsibilities of big tech post-pandemic, and what are the biggest challenges?
So I think, and I believe that actually we can do a lot to help in the recovery effort. We're just talking here about what we can be doing in London. I think that's something that we can be doing not just in this country, but actually all over the world, and especially on that economic development. And helping businesses to reach their customers. I think that matters. And it matters because they're able to do it. You can have the page for free, but also through personalised advertising. The smallest businesses in the world have got the same tools as the biggest businesses. For a handful of pounds, it can really reach directly the customers that matter to them. So I think that's an important area, and we're going to keep developing the trainings and the partnerships that we have to reach those small business owners around the world. So that's one area. I also think there's a lot more that we can do on the building of community, because that was also a really important thing that we've seen in the last year. On my street there is, we've now got a WhatsApp group. We didn't have that before. Discovered that there's a pharmacist on the street who in the early part of lockdown was filling people's prescriptions, and a baker who was getting people's bread, and that sense of community coming together I think is really important. And we're seeing that more and more with different groups on Facebook in particular around all manner of things. So whether it's kids football teams, whether it's health issues, whether it's football, entertainment, you name it, there's a group out there. So I think that's a big area of focus that we'll continue to invest in.
It's said that women and certain sections of society have been hit much harder than others. How can we address that post-pandemic? I mean, I suppose we might need to talk about it in the workplace, but what can we learn as a society? You clearly saw that certain sectors of society just got hit harder. How can we be sensitive to that moving forward?
Yeah, I think we should be sensitive. I mean, women make up 39% of the workforce, but lost 50% of the jobs. And you're right, a lot of that was because of the nature of the jobs.
Yeah.
Hospitality,
hospitality,
freelancers,
part-time.
the whole beauty industry, you know, that people weren't able to go to for a whole year, largely. So I think it's something for it to be aware of.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to, this is something that I think can be driven from the top of organisations to make sure that we're creating in our workplaces environments where people feel truly inclusive. And I don't think it's just about gender. I think it includes race, it includes sexuality, it includes religion, social class, that we create environments where people feel that they can do their best work and they can be their best authentic self.
Now, I know you're looking at spending a lot more time at home, but I assume there are some things you're going to feel safe going out in London to do, like to our beautiful parks. If you could imagine a perfect summer's day in London, would it be having a picnic in Hyde Park with your family? What is something that you know you can do that you're looking forward to?
Oh, like, how do you choose between all the things that you love? I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than kind of walking through Regent's Park or Green Park, like any of the amazing parks that we have, and just looking up. I think London is a city that I have always loved, just looking up, whether it's walking through the streets or walking through the parks. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I think you and I both share a huge love for this city. How important is London? I mean, you run a huge amount of offices, as we said, all across Europe, Africa. But what does London mean to Facebook?
London is unbelievably important to us. It's our second largest engineering base that we have anywhere in the world. It's the biggest in America, in the Valley. But we have here now in London over 4,000 people. In 2 sites, and we've signed up to take on space in the new King's Cross development, which I'm really looking forward to, which will be coming in the next couple of years. So yeah, it's really important. We build products here, the shops product we build out of London, the workplace product. So it's in a really important area for us, because what it also means is that we can contribute to the ecosystem of both the tech and the business and the creative industries that are just such a wonderful, vibrant feeling that you get when you work here and live in London.
And how far do you think London's, or is already, is one of the big tech centres of the world? I mean, it's not Silicon Valley, but what more do you think we can do to improve our position in the world, tech-wise?
Yeah, I think London already is a very important base for all of tech. It's a place where we see a huge amount of investment coming in. It's a place where we're seeing, you know, more and more businesses being started, unicorn businesses developing and thriving and coming out of here, and ultimately floating and going global as well. So there's a lot going on, but there's always more. There's always more that, you know, new policies that can be created to make it even more welcoming for other companies.
And keeping talent coming here.
That's crucial. Crucial is absolutely. And London is a great city to live in. It's a place that people want to come to. So we need to continue to make sure that they're coming and that we make it easy for them.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.